Good morning, everyone. John471 here to discuss the S&P 500. First, let me read our disclaimer. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Today is Thursday, April 10th. The news we have on the docket at 8:30, we have CPI and also jobless claims at 8:30. That will be our most significant news driver today. Those two figures, both are important. We also have Thomas Barkin speaking at 8:30 Eastern as well, and a lot of Fed speakers throughout the rest of the day. We have Lori Logan at 9:30, Jeffrey Schmidt at 10, as well as Michelle Bowman at 10. And we have Austin Goolsbee at noon, and Harker at noon, and Susan Collins on the close. We also have a 30-year bond auction at 1, which will not be insignificant. So that's what's going on today. The biggest driver, of course, will be CPI. What do we have going on in front of us here? This is the S&P 500. This is actually a full session chart. Doesn't matter all that much. But anyway, what are we seeing here? Well, we're seeing an insane range out of this day, 648 points, just staggering. This is 60% of the range we did in the year of 2023 in this day. It's unbelievable. So anyway, but what else do we see? We see that we opened this week. We had a big drop last week. We opened this week. We extended the drop. We attempted to recover the prior week's range. We weren't able to on the first shot. And then yesterday, with a little help from the news, we were able to push out of this balance and make an attempt to recover this drop. The news came out about the pause and we tariff them, they tariff us, all this, and somehow it just, the mix of tariffing each other hit the right notes to all of a sudden make a rally happen. So that's what we got there. And when the news came out, we just ripped higher, got above this area, and left these single prints. And where do we go? To just below this gap zone. Where does that leave us? Stuck between two unauctioned areas. We have the unauctioned single prints here and the unauctioned gap zone above. We're in the middle. We also have our prior month's low right here, which is significant. We're right below it. And our century figure. So, spoiler alert, we're in between these two unauctioned areas. This is pretty much going to be the universe of our planned trades here, because which area price takes out first or tests or takes out first is going to be important. Do we want to push to one of these areas, test it, and then revert? Or push to one of these areas and just continue through? So let's go to a smaller time frame chart and plan for specific price action. Okay, this is a point and figure chart. 2 points by 8, that's the reversal. And what do we have here? Let's take a look at yesterday very quickly. So important landmarks. Look at this, oops, wrong color. Look at this just very concentrated area of balance that we just broke higher from. Broke higher, pulled back to the center of it, and just ripped. This area is obviously the indecision zone, and we just decided, or the buyers decided they were going to take control of it, and that became our single prints. You see that we kind of, this area was sort of indecision, and we popped above it, and we've been trending. So essentially for me, as long as we hold above this area, there's no reason, unless something else happens, but there's no reason for me to not expect a trend higher to continue. Going against that, we have a very clear double distribution. The overnight profile, we just shifted the VPOC to the lower, so that's fairly bearish, or suggests a potential test of the singles. But regardless, let's go over these ideas, because which of these two areas we test and what we do there is going to be key. So let's just go over ideas where we test the single prints above first. Ideas where we test the single prints above. So how could we test the single prints above? Well, we have an overnight low here. It does, very balanced profile here. So how could we test this area? Well, we could test it by failing to get this overnight low, where we just kind of hang out here. Maybe the CPI comes out pretty good. No one's sure what to do. And we just start to levitate up through this area, push through the LVN, hold on a pullback, and then just start to move to take out the overnight high and test into the singles. This is a way we could get it just as straight kind of levitation. We could get it without taking out the overnight low. We could also get it with a very quick test through the overnight low that zippers, lick checks, and then rips higher back above Sentry and does the exact same thing I just said. Moves up to take the to test this gap zone. How would I play this? This LVN would be my pretty much my barometer for how to play this. If we get a clear lick check here, that might be tradable, but really I'd want to see us upend this attempt to sell before I would really want to get long. And for me, that would probably mean some type of an impulse higher and a push through this LVN that shows acceptance above. Those are the ways I'm looking at a test of this area. Now, what happens if we do test this area? Well, here's the thing. We could test this area, and don't be shocked. We saw sellers up here. So if we test this area, don't be shocked if we test into it and immediately see an impulse lower and just fall back into balance and chop around this area. That would be if we find resistance there. However, if we instead see stops go off and we see rotations expand into this area and we are unable to pull back or have a pullback stick and progress higher continues, then the next target would be gap close. And if the gap is closed and we still have some juice, we'd look at the single prints. Based on the ranges we've seen, if we get a hold like this and start to push higher, we could really move. We have the gap close, we have the tariff news SOC, and various landmarks above. So I would be going zone to zone if we get through this gap zone, but there's possibility for some real extension. I think we need news to support. So these are the ways that we could test this gap zone. What are the ways we could test the singles below? Well, obviously this is auctioning lower right now. So we could easily just drop from here. This wouldn't shock anybody if we just dropped from here to test this gap zone, or we could get a bit of a push higher through the LVN, just a quick test, and then a reversion. I would be looking, if we get something like that, like a test higher, I would be looking at the overnight VPOC as a guide. Test through, attempt to return, can't, extend, boom, get these, and test the singles. So what happens on a test of the singles? Very similar to a test of the gap zone. I mean, it would shock no one to see a test, lick check, boom, and a rip higher that continues to Sentry, maybe beyond. So this is a real possibility. However, the other possibility, if we do not get this, or maybe we test into it, we attempt to lick check and we just fall back below our prior low, then I would be open to continuation through the gap zone, with the first key landmark being the Sentry figure within. But really, unless the Sentry figure gets very firm, if we get into this gap zone and start making hay, I would be looking at this lower quartile of the gap zone as a key target from basically 51.80s to 51s. This whole area would be the key target region. I said gap zone singles. This lower bounds would be the key target region. I would expect support on an initial test back into this area. If we get the whole way through here and we start trading down near the prior week's low, basically below the 5100, I would expect some support and a potential lick check back up. But if we get through this area and we close the singles and we can't get back above the prior week's low and we start rolling lower, that could portend lower prices. What happens if we do that? The guide is this area, this kurtotic area of trade. If we take out the low of this area and then cannot get back above the VPOC of this area, that would really portend lower prices for me, and I would be looking zone to zone lower. Okay, 9 minutes in, I'm going to wrap it up here. We'll quickly go over the nothing scenario. The nothing scenario would basically be anything that either fails to test either of these two areas or tests and rejects these areas and just gives us a trade that ends up doing something like this. Maybe a test, and then tightening. This would be outside in. It might be a good scalp, but you would have to be careful. You have to look outside in. This is a very viable nothing scenario. There's a ton of range here, but this could easily be what we get today if any of the news or data is relatively inconclusive and we just sort of just punt on making significant price movements today. Very possible. But other than that, like I said, we have two very clear areas, features of the auction that are left to help us gauge the strength of the buyers or sellers on tests. And as of right now, the auction looks fairly clear, pretty good structure. So hopefully that translates to good trading. That isn't too insanely volatile. But that's what I got for you today. I'm going to wrap it up here at 10 minutes. I hope everyone's having a wonderful morning. I hope your wonderful morning continues. And I hope you find some way today to improve your trading that is not dependent upon your P&L, but is instead dependent upon improving your process. It doesn't feel good every day to carry out a process, but every day adds to the outcome, which is why we do it every day. That's what I got for you. Any questions on this, ask me in the chat room. Let's get out there and clock those ticks. Ciao.